Here we have the latest arrival to the workshop, Triumph T20 Tiger Cub. The owner has fond memories of working on it with his father and now wants it brought back to roadworthy condition. He wants to keep it original because this is how he remembers it with his dad. So we shall do our best to make it what he wants. Starting off, as with the Cadet, so just a general assessment, checking out bits and pieces. It's in pretty good original condition and everything seems to be there. There is the usual bits and pieces. The front tyre is completely gone. The wiring has had 40 years or more of amateurs playing with it. The chain looks well tired, and just generally, and the engine was locked, although I've already freed this up. As soon as the bike arrived, I took the spark plug out and put penetrating oil down the bore, but lucky enough it wasn't seized, it was just weather locked. So after a few days of sitting there, rocked it backwards and forwards, and it freed off quite nicely. It's a very nice engine turning over, although I haven't had it running yet, obviously. The points completely ruined. Obviously the cover was taken off and it was left to the elements. The bulbs, 6-volt tail, 12-volt headlight. A common mistake on these old bikes because the 12-volt bulb looks much the same as the 6-volt. The front brake probably will need changing, and general tidy up cables, again inner tubes. Rear tyre not too bad, but I'll have to get a front tyre. I'll probably go for a second-hand tyre to keep it matching the rest of the bike so it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb. I don't think this bike will be doing heavy mileage like every day, and it can always be changed later if it's a bit iffy. So here you can see me starting off with these very corroded points. Easiest job here is take the base plate out and just swap everything over. The cam has also got surface corrosion on it, so that'll have to be cleaned. A little bit of wet and dry, give it a bit of a wipe. Thankfully it's only surface rust, so not too bad. Checking the bob weights on the automatic advance, make sure they're not stuck. A little squirt of WD-40 on those will improve things, but again, not too bad. New points and condenser, already ordered and delivered. It's not often I get a head start like this, but as I say, there are certain things on bikes that have been sitting for a long time that you just know you're going to need. So here you can see me just assembling the points and condenser, ready for refitting. It's a lot easier to do this outside the engine. All you have to do is make note of where the base plate position was before you took it out. But don't expect the timing to be spot on. You'll still have to check it later when you get the thing up and running.
When everything comes together, it's like nothing else. I mean,
One thing I forgot to catch on camera here is when they are assembled, it's a good idea to use a bit of cardboard between the points just to give them a wipe, just in case there's any preserving oil on the faces of the points. I usually use the lid of the box, or the little flap of the box, but for some reason I forgot to record it. Here I'm putting the points wire back on. On the Triumph Cub they're a bit tight in the housing, so they have a little flap that goes over the connection. It's very close to the casing, and this little flap just guarantees an insulation between the points condenser and the housing. It's not a good idea to leave this out. I have heard of them arcing out at high revs, so if there isn't one there, fit one. Just pushing it back to its original position. This should be good enough to start it, all being well. And there we have it. At this point I've only hot wired the coil. I did try and put the battery on, but with the wiring the way it is, there didn't seem to be any connection between the battery and the ignition switch. So the spark is due to the hot wiring of the coil. It does prove that everything's okay from the coil to the point side of things, but I'll have to investigate the wiring, and of course that means removing all the crap on top of the wiring loom at the junction where it goes into the battery box. But again, bit of penetrating oil, and these bolts came undone fairly easily. Coil and rectifier to the side. Again, the rectifier will probably be changed for a modern solid state one. And here we have the first of the problems, I don't know how to be polite about them, crimp connectors that you often see in accessory shops that have very little resistance to corrosion, both on the bullet side and the wire side. So they shall be swapped out again for my trademark Japanese connectors. Here I'm extending the wire. That bullet connector was tucked right down in behind the oil tank. If it ever popped or needed access to, you were stuck, and it could quite easily happen on the side of the road. So here you can see me just extending the wire, soldering the joint together, and then a bit of heat shrink over the top, just to move the connector to a more accessible place. Now I'm trying to find the wires that go to the brake light switch, and they're completely missing. So is the brake light switch. The rear tail light has two filaments, so it should be there. Probably removed sometime in its history. So this is what you've got to do. You've got to work through the wiring and just make sure everything's okay. Again, another connector tucked in behind the oil tank for the points wire. So I swapped the car accessories crimp connector for one more capable of staying in position. It's handy if you can find them. And here we have a quick look at the front brake. You can see the angle of the lever here. It's very 90 degrees, so there's a good chance the brake shoes need changing. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.